All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the October edition of the Sia Community Call. I am Nate. I'm a core developer for the Sia Foundation. I do apologize for scheduling this on a holiday in the US, but I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. For any newcomers, so we are going to be talking about development updates, team changes, some grants program changes, and then end with our Q4 goals. Format that we'll be using today is we'll go through a slide. I will talk about it, and then please throw your questions in chat, and I will answer as many as possible at the end. So we're going to start off with development and development of Hosty. We are starting to wrap up our initial stable release for Hosty. We expect V1 to be ready for release very soon. This month, we added potential and earned revenue metrics so that hosts can track their revenue from all the different sources over time. We also planned to release a migration utility last week, but we did miss our target for that. We found issues when migrating a couple of our test nodes, especially the larger ones, so we're going to leave that to cook for a little bit before we release it fully. In Renterd, we've been improving our S3 support, so we expanded on the number of tools we support. We tested a lot of S3 compatible apps and fixed the issues we found. Just an example, we tested rclone integration, IPFS, Nextcloud, Urbit, and we'll be releasing documentation on setting up Renterd and connecting to those tools shortly. Upload packing is also out of experimental phase, so we enable it by default for all new nodes. For those of you that don't know, when you upload a small file to Sia, in the past, it would be padded up to 40 megabytes, but with upload packing, that storage waste is reduced. So now you'll be able to upload lots of small files without paying a lot of extra money for wasted space. In October, we're going to be focusing on stability and improving the renting experience out of the box for V1.0. We want it to be as usable as possible, and that means being less opaque about what's going on and directing users through the Sia experience. We'll be moving on to core/U3XO and V2. So we finished implementing the gateway protocol for V2. That means that peers can now exchange blocks for V2. They have a slightly different format than V1 blocks. For anybody not aware of the V2 phases that we talked about a few months ago, when we first release the hard fork and when the hard fork activates, we will support both the V1 and V2 blocks, but then at a later date, another execution height will activate where we will only allow V1 blocks, and that'll mean we are fully transitioned to a V2 node. What that means is that that'll improve the syncing time for Sia nodes. You'll be able to sync basically instantly, and you'll no longer need to store 60 gigabytes of chain state. It'll be much reduced, a couple gigabytes at most for most nodes. The V2 code is now merged into core. That means we're getting very close to the hard fork, and in October we're going to be working on spinning up the first V2 testnet. That'll give developers the first look at Sia's implementation of U3XO, how it works, what it'll look like, and it'll also let developers test the new spending policies that are going to be used to enable atomic swaps with other ecosystems. We don't expect the hard fork to be activated for at least 3 months after the releases of Renterd and Hosty that support the hard fork to be released. So you'll have plenty of time to adapt and implement all of the changes you need for V2. You don't need to migrate before the hard fork, no. 29 word seeds won't be affected by the hard fork. Our new apps just won't support them. We will be adding support in WalletD to migrate 29 word seeds to 12 word seeds, though. But if you do that before or after the hard fork, it doesn't really make a difference. All right, moving on. We announced in our quarterly report that we were working on hiring a technical writer, and I am pleased to announce that an offer has been accepted to fill the position. We don't have a start date yet, but it'll hopefully be later this month. Our goals for the technical writer are to help implement our content strategy. We need to publish a lot more content in order to increase the awareness of Sia and decentralized storage. And we're also going to have them help us maintain and update our documentation. After almost a year of running the grants program, we asked the community for feedback on changes we felt would improve its outcomes. And a few weeks ago, the grant committee approved the changes based on that community feedback. We now have 3 levels of grants with various requirements, the smallest of which is for small grants less than $10,000. These are very quick to approve, around 2 to 4 weeks, but they do have a maximum timeline of 3 months. It's the easiest form of grant to get approved. The requirements are very light. It's perfect for small utilities or field testing larger ideas or field testing ideas for larger grant types. We have our standard grants for 10,000 to 100,000 USD. These are a little bit longer to approval, 4 to 6 weeks. It gives the community, the committee, and the grantees time to go back and forth, discuss the proposal, and really go in depth. The proposal has much more stringent requirements, so a full detail of the scope, objective, and outcomes, and then as well as milestones for the entire grant's lifetime. And then for most grants, a demo day at the end of the grant as part of the community call will be required, so they can really showcase what they've done and how it affects Sia and the community. And lastly, we have our larger grants, which are any grant for more than $100,000. These will take a lot longer for approval, 8 to 12 weeks. Again, this gives everybody a chance to really dig into the grant and what it does, how they're doing it. In addition to the standard grant requirements, the proposal should also include a much more in-depth plan, including the team's expertise and prior accomplishments. And then it must also include an example of previous work and/or a small proof of concept to demonstrate the viability and potential of the project. But in addition to our grants program changes, we also had 2 really great grants complete last month. So the first was Sia Share, an easy-to-use end-to-end encrypted file sharing portal. Think Wormhole, but backed by Sia. The second was a Hostd Prometheus exporter. It exports metrics from Hostd into Prometheus for building graphs in Grafana. This is really great for any host that's running multiple nodes. It lets them aggregate all of their metrics in one place. Moving on to our goals for Q4. Our primary goal for Q4 is to start working on our growth and content agenda, and that starts with consistently publishing engaging content. Secondly, we'd also like to host a hackathon and workshop series for Renter-D. This might target S3, this might target something else, we're not really sure yet, but if the community has any ideas on that, we'd love to hear them. On the development side, we want to release stable versions of both Hostd and Renter-D and launch the V2 testnet. As part of these goals, we're going to be adding a section for metrics to the quarterly report, and we're also going to have monthly check-ins on the progress towards our growth goals in the community call. The goal here is to give the community the opportunity to give feedback to us on the data that we have that you might not. If you have any additional metrics you think would be valuable to talk about, please throw them in chat or after the call, add them to the success metrics post in community proposals channel. We're not going to go through all of these, but we're going to go through a couple of the important ones. Some of the big ones for us are third-party projects. So the number of active projects in the ecosystem. A vibrant developer community is absolutely crucial for Sia's success. So we want to track the growth of the active projects over time. Another one that we really think is valuable is event participation. So the turnout at events we host, such as community calls, hackathons, and meetups, and also the number of events we hosted or sponsored. And then lastly, high impact content published. So the volume and impact of the content we publish. So that would include things like articles with high page views, comments, shares, mentions, low bounce rates, things like that. The network metrics are important. Active hosts, especially in regards to their location, a large number of quality hosts is absolutely necessary for Sia to be performant and successful. So are hosts being incentivized properly to stay and maintain their service, or are they dropping out relatively quickly? All very important things for us to track. And lastly, these are events we are considering sponsoring next year. If you have any thoughts on events or any events we might have missed, we are looking for events in the blockchain, storage, or Web3 ecosystems. You can either If you have any suggestions, please throw them in chat or after the call, add them to the Events for 2024 post in Community Proposals. We will be publishing events we're planning to attend, sponsor, and host on a public calendar from now on so the community can get an easy look at what is coming up. Our plans to grow the actual storage utilization of the network involve onboarding developers and increasing awareness of the chain for now. We might look at hiring more people to help with that, but we are not currently planning. We do not currently have any plans for that. If you have any roles that you think would be useful, definitely throw them in, and we will definitely consider looking for them. Who guides the devs what to actually build? We just recently hired a developer relations whose job it is to guide developers, work with them on what they can build and what they need to build to succeed. We are definitely working and planning on having an ecosystem team to onboard data and projects. That's Oliver's primary job, and we might look at expanding that team in the future. Very soon, he will actually be hosting this call next month, so you'll be hearing a lot more from him. He spent his first month doing a lot of onboarding, getting used to the ecosystem, learning about Sia. There's a lot of things to learn coming from a less cryptocurrency background, so it's been quite the learning curve for him, but we are heading in the right direction with that. Keep things moving. We're going to move on, and we can restart this at the end of the call. So last thing today is Hacktoberfest. So in the spirit of Hacktoberfest and the project's open source roots, we're giving away a free t-shirt to the first 20 contributors to any Sia Foundation repo in October. For the first-time contributors, look for good first issue tags on the hostd or renterd repos. For non-coders, consider contributing to our docs. Pick a page or topic and make it easier to understand. Add some terms and definitions from Sia to our glossary, things like that. Yep, that's definitely a goal of ours, is to contact potential partners, not only contact them, but also meet them where they're at. So going to events, going to things like that. Yep, re-adding network stats is definitely a high priority of ours. We will be working on getting those into SiaScan as soon as possible. All right, if that is all of our questions, I'm going to end this community call. Once again, thank you all for coming and attending. I really appreciate all the feedback we've gotten. If you have any more, don't hesitate to DM me or one of the team members.